You're listening to the Social Selling Simplified podcast. Stick around if you too are obsessed with learning things that actually work and believe that success leaves clues. We're all about identifying results-producing roadmaps and getting super clear on how to scale and grow your online business. From part-timer to president, social selling expert Ashley Shaw will help you connect the dots and take the guesswork out of what works to grow a social selling empire. It's time to hear from social selling legends, listen in on truthful conversations, and learn the best tips and tricks to reduce the marketing overwhelm so you can build the social selling business of your dreams. If you're ready to go all in, no holding back, and build the business you've always wanted, you're in the right place. Here's your host, educator, social selling guru, and fitness industry OG, Ashley Shaw.
Welcome to Social Selling Simplified. I'm your host, Ashley Shaw, and I have an extremely exciting guest today. Today, I'm sitting down with Josh Coates, who, if you haven't heard of Josh Coates before, which I'm sure you have, he's a high energy, no excuses, no BS, motivational speaker and business coach. He has Your Push Coach podcast. He's written a few books. This is just his most recent book, F Leadership. He's part of the John Maxwell team and has helped 5 different people in 2 companies go top 10. And he also has trained thousands of network marketers in his accountability group. So thank you so much for being here today, Josh.
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was so excited when you and I chatted about the possibility of you being on the podcast. We are in the infancy of the podcast, so to have you come on as one of the first 15 guests is super exciting. So thank you so much again for being here today.
You're welcome. That's cool. It's always fun to get to be at the beginning of something, I speak on a lot of team calls, and anytime it's someone, they're like, "This is my first team call." I'm like, "Oh, this is so cool. I love getting to be at the beginning of things with people. It's a blast."
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so excited today to pick your brain and just really dive into how you've helped so many people be so successful in the field of social selling, network marketing, however, you define or they define where they're at in their business. So yeah, I have a couple of questions I want to just start off with to kick things off. And cool. I want to find out, I know you have a really great sort of origin story of how this all came about. So can you share with our listeners here how you came to be doing what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of those things. It's like I've told the story a million times, but it literally never gets old to me. I love this story so much because it's like, if you don't love your own story, what do you really have? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So true. Too many people on social media are like, well, I don't really have anything to share. I don't really have anything to say. And it's like, well, if you would just share what you really did have to share, that story would grow and evolve, and it would get more exciting every single time because you get to add more stuff to it. It's like if you shy away from your story, getting a little ahead of myself. You didn't ask me about this, but I'm just telling people you need to embrace your freaking story because it really is your power. So for me, I played music all through my 20s, my teenage years, and then all through my 20s. Got married really young, got married at 19, started popping out babies at 21. And so I basically, had to work to pay bills. So I detailed cars full time for a living. I think around the age of 23 is when I started I guess I started doing it 21 because I did it for 9.5 years and was detailing cars, played music on the weekends, at my brother's church, but then was in and out of other bands that I traveled with. I think around 26, I started my own band and we just hit the road. I was like, I'm going all in on this thing. I'm not going to die without giving this thing a shot. Right. So we hit the road. We released an album. We were actually getting really, really close to starting to work with some type of a PR girl to get us on the radio. And then my youngest son, Paxton, he was born with a heart defect and he had to have open heart surgery at 6 weeks old, which is just rocked my whole world. I started a whole t-shirt company to help raise money because I didn't have paid time off from my day job. So when I had to be in the hospital with him, I would put on these big concerts and sell these t-shirts. They said never quit on them. And I would sell t-shirts to basically be able to afford to be in the hospital with my kid to take off work. And ended up having a second one at 6 months old. And then at 2.5 years old, we found out he might need a heart transplant. So up until that point, I was still playing music, still doing my thing, you know, and it's like when we found out he might need a heart transplant, we might have to move to St. Louis. We might have, everything was just like, who knows what, right? And that's when I was just like, I don't know. I just feel a shift for the first time in my life. I didn't want to play music. And it wasn't one of those things where it was like, you know, it wasn't like a, this is too hard kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. It was like a, no, legit, I think this season has passed and it's time to move on. I really need to find something that can fulfill my passion, but like not have me on the road, right? Music is one of those things you're either really rich or really poor. And I was the really poor one. So it's like, there's gotta be a way, right? And thankfully he ended up not needing a heart transplant. They were able to do another open heart surgery, fix everything. He's 9 years old now and hasn't had to have any major work done since. So that's awesome. But what was done was done. I'd quit the band and I'd already kind of decided there was a new season was like needed. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what to do. It's funny. I'm actually in the middle of writing my next book where I kind of tell the story and I talk about how I learned that the name of my new book is called The Best Version of You. And I have this affirmation that I use that says the best version of me will figure it out. And it's just kind of this constant reminder that like life is hard and business is hard and you constantly run into obstacles and struggles and questions. But I find, especially as a coach, I have this conversation with people that are on the other end of obsessing over their issues and their problems instead of having a growth mentality to just like figure it out, right? You know, Marie Forleo's book, Everything is Figure Outable. My new favorite book in the world, by the way. And so I remembered this random article I had read with Creed's old guitar player. For those of you that remember Creed, like you can't even say Creed without everybody just like laughing, right? But it was a cool article. So I like read it, right? And he was talking about how when Creed broke up, he like didn't know what he was going to do. He's like, I don't know. And the thing is like, the guy could have retired. I'm sure he had plenty of money. He probably could have just called up some friends and got a new gig, but he was like, you know what? I don't know what's next. So I'm going to work on becoming the best I can possibly be for whatever opportunity comes next. And he actually went and hired a guitar instructor and was practicing like 8 hours a day. And he was like, whatever comes next, I'm just going to be ready for it. And I remembered that lesson and I thought to myself, okay, I don't know what's next, but whatever it is, I need to be ready for it. And so the only thing I knew to like make myself better was like, well, my older brother, he's a youth pastor and he's like always reading these stupid books and telling me I need to like read books and stuff. I'm not going to read a stupid book, but I'll download some podcasts because that's free, right? I was such a cheapskate. I was like, I'll download some free podcasts and see if I learn something, right? And so I downloaded, I detailed cars, so I got to wear headphones all day. And so I was like, I got like 8 hours that I'm basically getting paid, right, to do work. Like, why not just like learn something? And I fell in love. I loved podcasts. I was just like, I don't know what it is, but like, I feel so alive. At that time, to be honest, I'd kind of like gotten to a point where I was questioning all of the spiritual things that I had learned growing up, because here I was 29 years old, stuck in life, not going anywhere. No one that I knew was really going anywhere. And honestly, I was just questioning everything in my life. And personal development actually brought me back to a place of spirituality, because I was like, this is actually the same stuff they told me in church, but they're teaching me how to apply it to things in life that actually matter. And it actually, personal development brought me back to a journey with God again. And I was just, this is everything. I don't know. There was just something in me that was like, this is the thing I was born to find. So, I was just downloading podcasts. I was listening like 8 hours a day. Started my own podcast at that point that was called, actually it was called The Best You, which is so crazy because I haven't actually used that terminology up until recently working on my new book, but it was called The Best You. And it was like spirit, soul, and body. It was just talking about anything and everything I was learning on any podcast episode. I was just like regurgitating it. And then I came across an episode with John Maxwell. And he was actually on Entree Leadership, which is Dave Ramsey's podcast. And I was like, this dude, first of all, I love him. Second of all, I hate his guts because I feel like he stole my dream. Like, I'm really frustrated with this guy right now because I thought I was like the first guy to like think about this. Like, I didn't know there was a whole industry of people like us that existed. You know, I was playing in rock bands, right? And so the dude just spoke to my soul. And I think, you know, a month later, I found some ad popped up about the John Maxwell team. I was like, I think I'm going to do that one day. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like that's going to happen. And then it turns out that my pastor was like good friends with someone on the presidential advisory council for the John Maxwell team, put me in contact. I signed up, and, you know, the rest I would say is history, but there's a million other things that we can dive into. But I'll give you the shorter version of the rest of the story. Is the first year I signed up, and it was hard. I almost quit every single day for the first 6 months. I got kicked out 6 different times for not being able to make my monthly payment. I mean, it was rough. I only made 2 sales my whole first year. It's supposed to take you 6 months to get certified. It took me, 2 years to get certified because I just couldn't pay for it. Like, you can't get certified until you like pay it off. Right. And so it's just like, I had probably the roughest first year of anyone I've ever heard, which is why I have so much compassion for people that are struggling, because I know what it's like. And I also, you know, regardless of where you're stuck right now, I really do believe that there's hope for you, and that if you stick with it and you keep having a growth mentality, that anything can happen. Because, you know, I made 2 sales in my whole first year. My second year, that's when I really, really, really started like honing into the things that I teach now.
Right.
And I made $48,000 part-time that second year, quit my job, immediately had my first $10,000 month, and my income grew. And by the time I showed up at certification, they do them every 6 months. So by the time I showed up, I was doing it full time and making like $20,000 a month. And everyone at certification wanted to know what I was doing. Everyone was like, wait a second, you're using social media? Like, what's that like? Wait, you mean do Zoom calls? You don't like go talk to people in person? Like, you know, everything that we're doing now that's like normal, 5 years ago, people were just like blown away by. And for me, I was just doing whatever I could to find humans. No one in person liked me. So I just went to social media because that was my only other option. So, you know, since then, all the other stuff from the testimonial, you know, the intro is what's happened since, but it was a really, really rough journey. And I think too many times Instagram makes it look like we all got here because we just had like a pretty filter. And for me, there were no pretty filters those first couple of years. It was just hustle and a lot of crying and a lot of just refusing to give up.
You know, it's so interesting when you talked about John Maxwell and how there was this tipping point in your life. You reminded me of this time frame in my life. I'd been in gyms at this point for probably 10 years. And worked my way up. I was in the training department, had been a personal trainer, like done all these things before. But all of a sudden I was back in the other side of the sales, you know, grind again. I was working as a district manager, and I was working in, you know, in that time I would sort of called it like more of a boys club. It's not that, you know, the fact that I was working with a lot of men made it, you know, a certain way, but there was definitely this different mentality that I'm a little bit more on the softer side in terms of, you know, emotional and really wanting people to feel good about results and that sort of thing. And for the first time, I felt like in a bit of a lion's den of, you know, no excuses, you get the job done. This is how it has to go. And I remember a couple of those calls where, you know, they say you start to emulate your leader after about, you know, 30 days. And I was starting to have panic attacks at night. And I just remember this time that I really felt like this is all I've ever wanted, was to be leading, you know, a big sales team and kind of be up with the big dogs. And yet I felt, you know, so out of control because all of a sudden it wasn't just my sales. It was like these other sales teams I was running. And it was so funny that you said John Maxwell, because a couple of the guys on our team, sometimes they would have different leaders present. And a couple of the guys had brought up John Maxwell. And once I started reading his stuff, like the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership and his books on teams, I couldn't stop consuming it because it helped something like deep in my soul feel like
Yeah.
there was some good that could come out of this. And it wasn't just, it almost sometimes felt like leading by power versus persuasion. And so it's so funny because John Maxwell for me was like, I felt like it was this bridge to there's another possibility of life out there. And it was so helpful in that time.
Yeah. And, I grew up in a small church world. My dad is a minister, like my brother's a minister, grandpa's a minister. I mean, like literally we go back to the Mayflower as like ministers. Okay. Like kid you not. And I grew up in this small church world where I was always like very heavily involved because that's just like, I played music. If you play an instrument, you walk into a church and everyone is like your best friend immediately because every church needs musicians. And so I was always really heavily involved with like leadership teams and stuff. And I love church. I don't want to like knock on church. Okay. But I was around a lot of small-minded people who instead of really leading people were more trying to coerce people into doing what they needed to get done. And it was, a different environment than what you're talking about, but a similar mindset of like, how do we get people to do the thing that like we need done? As opposed to like, how do we work together to solve problems and make life better? And that's a really big, when I was like reading John Maxwell, I'm just like, this guy like gets it. Like, it's not, and I fell in love with life coaching because of the simple philosophy of everyone already has all the answers they'll ever need living on the inside. And my job as a life coach is not to even like call myself a push coach. Like that's more just the energy that I bring, but it's not really my job to push you to do something you didn't already want to do. It's my job to draw out of you what's already there and then give you the push to chase that thing. It's not me pushing you toward the thing I think is best for your life. Right. And to me, that was like such a mind trip. I was like, wait, what? You're telling me you can lead people to help them find their own path? It went against everything I'd ever been taught. It was always, we know the right path and you need to go here and do this. And it needs to look the way we said it needs to look and it needs to sound the way. And for me, that just never worked. Like, I guess like being a musician, I'm a little bit of a punk rocker. You know what I mean? I don't like to fit to the mold. I really don't like to fit to the mold. I love to create new ways to get things done, find and solve problems, and like, just everything about that just made me so high. And I remember thinking this whole life coaching thing, I don't know. I think I can be a good speaker. I come from a long line of preachers, but this whole asking other people questions, I don't know if I'm going to be any good at that. And it ended up being the thing that I loved the most because just watching people, watching their eyes light up as they found their own answers and their own solutions and kind of like had that aha moment of like realizing who they really were. That's so much more powerful than like saying something meaningful. You know what I mean? Like it's more fun to help you say something meaningful than it is for me to just say something meaningful that you're impressed by.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, if maybe that when you think about people trying to build a team and they're looking for the right people to add to that team, that misconception there of, these people aren't doing what I need them to do to build the team, but really it's more of what you're saying with, it's asking the right questions. It's finding out what internally they're going after so you can just help them get there.
Yeah, and kind of goes both ways. On one hand, I just feel like a lot of people actually, they do a really shitty job of ever communicating what they really want for their team. Everyone's welcome. Everyone's invited. Come join me. We're having slumber parties Friday night. And then when people show up and don't want to work, they're mad.
Yeah.
And so it's like, on one hand, people just need to do a better job of actually saying what they want instead of advertising their slumber parties. On another hand, the cool thing that I found about life coaching, Ashley, is that when I ask you questions to help you figure out where you want to go, 99.9% of the time, the place you tell me you want to go is the place I was kind of hoping to help you find.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
for sure.
Because you said it out of your own mouth. Now I get to hold you accountable to what you said you want, not to the thing that I put on you.
Right. So production with permission.
Yeah. And then it allows you to, the beauty of life coaching is I'm just constantly collecting data
Mm-hmm.
on why people are afraid,
Hmm.
on what people are motivated by.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that. Like, that's how I speak on calls. That's how I motivate people. All of my analogies, all of my stories are built around speaking to that person that I've spent a million hours listening to.
Mm-hmm.
And motivation is like not that hard when you spend a lot of time listening to people and knowing, oh, okay, so that's the 20th time this week I've heard someone say they're afraid because of this specific thing. Apparently, I need to address that more often, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so it's not that hard. We make it hard.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say is the biggest belief then that you find holds people back?
I mean, the biggest, that's a loaded question. I mean, so one of my mentors, Paul Martinelli, says that basically everything we fear in life comes down to I'm not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think I don't have enough or I'm not enough. But I personally think I don't have enough is still rooted in I'm not enough. I personally think, and we could go into some more business specific stuff, like I'm not good enough of a leader, or you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But at its very core, it's people don't believe enough in themselves. They have a really big worth problem. I teach this formula in my groups that says consistency plus intensity plus worth plus time equals whatever you want. And it's actually a Dave Ramsey formula that my buddy Micah Folsom passed off to me that said consistency plus intensity plus time. But I was like, there's a missing piece here. There's a missing piece here. And the missing piece is worth, because I'm on call after call after call after call after call with people in my training groups that are just trying to figure out how to make a sale. With my one-on-one clients who are $1 million earners who are trying to figure out how to help someone else make a sale. And both people, regardless of how low or high of a level they're at, are questioning their worth and ability to help other people.
And would you say most people are aware of this belief, or would you say a lot of the work comes in realizing that is what is holding them back?
I think that they're aware of it. I think they don't know how to fix it. I think, you know what I mean? It's they've got this like cancer living in them, and it feels incurable because no one has properly equipped them with how to face that fear or that insecurity or that obstacle. I mean, I really think that, dude, life coach training literally changed my life because it taught me how to coach myself too. And I think that in general, people have a very low EQ, which is, you know, their emotional intelligence, very, very, very low EQ. But I don't think really many people have learned how to develop it and even improve it. So it's like a lot of people would just be like, I know it's stupid. I know, like, this doesn't even make sense, but like, I also don't know how to fix it. You know what I'm saying? And that's where coaching comes in, is walking people through the steps of how to actually fix that stuff.
And so how would you describe, if maybe there's someone listening to the podcast right now that could be experiencing this, you know, their value, how would it be manifesting itself? Like, would there be certain things this person wouldn't be doing or taking action on?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like my whole book, kind of the point of the book is that people think that they're not good leaders, which again is a worth issue. And so because of that, they excuse themselves from doing the work it takes to actually become a leader.
Okay.
I'll ask people, you know, so what's your definition of leader? Like, I want to hear it from you, because what I know that when they say I'm not a good enough leader, I know they have a picture in their head that isn't really true to what they believe in their heart. It's something they've made up. This girl who's absolutely gorgeous, has 100,000 Instagram followers, gets 70 million comments on every post, walks across stage, you know, shows up like she owns the place. Like they have like something in their head that they've allowed themselves to see that isn't really true to even what they believe in their heart. So I'll just ask them, you know, this power in questions, right? What's your definition of a leader? And people will be like, well, someone that's hardworking, someone that's disciplined, someone that's honest, someone that leads from the front. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me you're not a good hard worker, self-disciplined, lead from the front? And they're like, well, I actually kind of do all those things. Okay, so what is it that makes you not a good leader? Well, I don't have this, and then they go off into the, you know, the bullshit story that they've been telling themselves. And I'm trying to help people. My whole book is like, here's the thing. Stop pretending that celebrity and leadership are the same. They're not. Now, people that are really good leaders, if they continue down that path long enough, eventually do become celebrities because really good leaders attract people over time, right? But stop pretending that the celebrity side of it has anything to do with the leadership side of it and has anything to do with how they got to where they are. Homegirl did not get to 100,000 followers because she woke up this morning. Like, she was hustling and doing specific actions that it actually takes to build a following. And you know what? Maybe she's better on social media than you, but guess what? You can become better on social media if you want to become better, right? So not thinking that they're worth it leads to almost always just not doing any of the actions long enough to get the kind of results they want. So maybe it's leadership, and because they don't believe they're a good leader, they stop trying to even recruit people. Because it's like, why would I recruit people to a team that I'm not prepared to lead, right?
Yeah.
If they don't think they're worthy, they might not. 90% of you listening to this podcast are not sending out daily invites to just ask people to try your own product because you're so convinced that you're not worthy that you're afraid the person on the other side of the message will confirm to you your limiting belief that you aren't worthy by saying, no, I'm not interested. By the way, bitch, why are you sending me a message? Like, that's what everyone's afraid they're going to get, right? And so I tell my Push Elite girls, like, you got to stop looking for everyone else to affirm what you should have told yourself.
I'm trying to think of what her actual title is. Her name's Kathy Plackey. I believe she's actually a life coach, but she talks about this thought pattern that happens with people. So normally what happens is that a situation occurs. Like, let's say you don't get people responding on your invites. Let's say that happens. Then it triggers a feeling and this emotion that happens. And then that leads to how you start to react and the action that you take. And so it's really cool because let's say that this happens, like you don't get engagement on a post. So therefore you feel like, I'm not really a great leader. Nobody's, really following what I'm putting out there. So therefore that results in then you not doing your follow-up invites. You're not posting that day and all these things happen. And so what she talks about is reversing the model. So you start with